We've covered the mechanics of mobility, the how and the why, and you've been practicing the how for a few weeks now. So let's explore the next question, which is, well, what could happen if I don't do this mobility thing? You see, putting in the work to maintain healthy mobile joints carries well beyond just feeling and moving better right here and now. It is an investment into your structural longevity. You see, modern biomechanics shows us a very clear pattern, and it's that your body is a master of compensations. Your body is a master of working around problems. Now, when one joint, for example, loses its mobility, the body just doesn't stop moving it. It just borrows that movement from a joint above or below it to take up the slack. Now, while your body's doing exactly what it's supposed to keep you moving, and it's incredibly resilient, this borrowing process is not free. When we force a joint to work in ways that it wasn't designed to, and we do it for months and years on end, we're inviting abnormal degradation into the picture. And today we're going to look at a few common ways that this this breakdown often manifests. And the first is chronic lower back pain and stiffness. Your lumbar spine is built for stability, but stiff hips, specifically hips that can't rotate, they can force your lower back to move in directions that it wasn't really designed to do in high volumes. Think of your pelvis as the foundation for your spine, and it sits on top of your hip joints, which allow it to tilt, shift, pivot, and twist. Now, if that foundation ever becomes stuck because stiff hips are there, your lumbar segments are now going to pay the price because they're going to have to take up some of that slack. Now, you can help reduce the stress on your lower back by prioritizing hip rotation mobility. Basically, you make your hips behave like hips, so your lumbar spine can behave like a lumbar spine, and it doesn't have to worry about taking up the slack for your stiff hips. Another is patellar pain, and your patella is your kneecap. And your kneecap glides through a groove formed by your thigh bone, kind of like a boat in a canal. And like a boat in a canal, it needs some space in all directions so it can bob up and down and it can drift side to side as it's moving through. But if your hips lack rotation or your ankles lack dorsiflexion, that canal becomes much more restricted and less forgiving for your kneecap. And ultimately, it can force that kneecap through that canal while being smashed up against one side or the other constantly. And that brings in additional friction. And over time, that friction can wear down the cartilage between the bones and even irritate the tendon. So by regaining hip rotation and ankle mobility, you increase the space in that canal, allowing the knee to track through it exactly as it was designed to. Another is shoulder impingement and rotator cuff issues. The rotator cuff has a massive job. Not only does it rotate your arm in the socket, but it actually helps keep the head of your upper arm bone centered in the socket. Now, if your shoulder capsule ever becomes stiff, especially like the back side of your shoulder capsule, it can really misalign that upper arm bone in the socket and ultimately prevents that upper arm bone from being able to move and glide around inside the socket like it should. So then, during movement, this can put your tendons in kind of a pinch zone where they're kind of getting smashed up between other tissues, and that's going to make them overworked and inflamed. Add in weak end range control, and you have a recipe for some chronic irritation in that joint. So we can proactively address this by reclaiming shoulder rotation and building end range strength to support that joint. Another is neck pain and tension headaches. Our heads are heavy, believe it or not, like 10 to 12 pounds on average. And even a slight forward lean in the neck can quadruple the perceived weight of your head on your neck muscles. Your thoracic spine, which is your upper back, it needs to be able to extend and sit very upright. Now, if your upper back is actually locked forward in a rounded forward position, the neck joints and muscles, they must work extra hard just to hold your head up. And this can create a lot of chronic tension that can radiate into the head. So by improving thoracic extension and shoulder mobility, we can help offload the neck and allow your spine to distribute the weight of your head more effectively. Finally, we have to talk about osteoarthritis. So while often it's called the wear and tear form of osteoarthritis, it should be much better understood as a loss of joint space. You see, if a capsule is stiff, it actually shrink wraps the joint, reducing the space inside the joint, causing the tissues in there to rub when they should normally glide. Now, intentional training of your joint capsules is one of the best proactive measures in order to preserve that joint space and keep the cartilage healthy inside the joint for decades. Now, a quick but very critical reminder. If you're currently experiencing joint pain, especially sharp joint pain, you need to consult with your healthcare provider. This system that I'm showing you is designed to help you build resiliency and stay healthy and reduce the likelihood of these issues developing through smart, consistent movement. But it is absolutely not a replacement for a medical diagnosis, treatment, or quality rehabilitation. Mobility training is not a magic bullet that guarantees you'll never have an issue. The human body is complex and multifactorial, to keep it simple. However, by choosing to be proactive rather than reactive, you are drastically changing your odds. You are building a body that is durable, that is capable, and ready for whatever life throws at you. You have the tools, the why, and the system. Now it's just about the work.